currently working as a senior data scientist in HelloFresh, as mentioned, and leading data science projects for recipe recommendations. So if you're looking for any recipe recommendations, Ritesh is the man to ask.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Up next, we have Jose Capella. He is the cybersecurity engineer at Dekra, leads comprehensive cybersecurity across diverse ecosystems, and is currently engaged in the ongoing development of cybersecurity standards for electric vehicle charging systems. Now, I work for Huawei, and we're working very, very closely with the automotive industry. So this is a very, very interesting topic for me. And I understand that you're going to be presenting on the Internet of Things, brand protection, and security. So I will pass the microphone over to yourself, Jose. Hello. No, that's me.
Hello, hello.
There you go. We can hear you now. Yeah, and if you
Hello.
can go to the presentation screen, that would be beautiful.
Can you see my
Perfect.
screen as well?
Introduction to cybersecurity regulations and standards. Off you go.
Exactly. So yeah, as you said, automotive is good a good vertical right now, but I'm not gonna be talking about that in this presentation. I'm gonna be focused on the IoT product cybersecurity regulations and standards on how to comply with them. So a bit introduction of myself. I'm Jose Manuel Capella, cybersecurity at Dekra, as you mentioned. And nowadays, I'm leading testing and evaluation across various systems, industrial, IoT, the new radio equipment, and EV charging stations, among other verticals. So my mission is to ensure that they meet industry standards or client needs, while also contributing to developing new cybersecurity solutions. So on the regulation content, we're going to check a bit of the Radio Equipment Directive, the Delegated Act. We're going to be talking a bit also about the Cyber Resilience Act and the UK PSTI, which is another regulation, and then non-mandatory schemes or certification regulations that are not mandatory, such as the Singapore Cybersecurity Labeling Scheme and the US Labeling Scheme. And on the standard context, we're going to check the HCN 303645, the NIST IR 8425, and the IEC 62443, among others that we are going to mention at the end. So, huge topic, the Delegated Act, Radio Equipment Directive in the European range. So the Delegated Act, it's an extension of the regulation for the Radio Equipment Directive that it already exists. In 2022, the European Commission activated these three articles that cover cybersecurity topics, Article 33D, 33E, and 33F, where every one of them was focused in one specific topic. So the D is that the radio equipment does not harm the network or is functioning or misuse network resources, thereby causing an unacceptable degradation of service. E, it's for the radio equipment incorporates safeguards to ensure that personal data and privacy of the user and the subscriber is protected. And F, that the radio equipment supports certain features ensuring protection from fraud. Which kind of devices would be applicable to each article? So this is what the directive says. So for Article D, it would be any equipment that can communicate itself over the internet, whether it communicates directly or via another equipment. And of course, it has a radio element. And Article E, it's an internet-connected radio equipment. I mean, the one from Article D, and plus it is designed or extended for childcare, for toys, or it is intended to be worn, strapped to, or hung from the body of clothing worn by human beings, meaning it involves the process of personal data. And on the Article F, it would be applicable to any device where Article D is applicable again, internet connected, plus the device processes or stores or transmits any kind of financial data. Are there any exemptions on these regulations? There are. So medical devices, they fall under the MDR regulation or on the in vitro diagnosis regulation. And they have their own regulation, so they don't need to comply with the Delegated Act. There is also a group that is exempted to comply with the articles E and F, but they still need to comply with the article D, and these devices are the ones destined to civil aviation, motor vehicles, or road toll systems. So, as a manufacturer, how do I comply with this regulation? How do they comply? So, when there is a harmonized standard available, a supplier organization can perform a self-assessment stating that the device complies with such a harmonized standard. What if there is no harmonized standard yet? So then you should rely on a third-party assessment performed by an independent inspection body, regardless whether or not a harmonized standard was used. And when there is a harmonized standard available, a conformance assessment will be available. And in the meantime, as a manufacturer, you should go to an accredited notified body to issue an EU-type examination certificate. This is the timeline for this Delegated Act. So it was published on 2022 or activated, these 3 articles. Later this year, the European Commission contacted CEN-CENELEC requesting a standard for harmonization, and it was accepted. In 2023, the first version of the working draft started to get into circulation, the name of which is 18031 for now, with 3 versions. The first one is for Article D, second one for Article E, and third one for Article F. It was expected to have an harmonized standard on December 2023, and there is not. So it was delayed and also not accepted by the European Commission. And a new date was then provided, 30th June of 2024. We will have a harmonized standard by then. That's an unknown question. In any case, the application of this regulation is expected for August 2025, almost a year from now. Cyber Resilience Act. So another huge topic on regulations. First of all, what will happen to the Delegated Act when the CRA enters in a scene? So basically, the Radio Equipment Directive, the Delegated Act, only covers devices that are connected to internet and have any radio element. But the CRA covers a wider scope. So what will happen with the Delegated Act is that it will be amended or repealed by the CRA. So the Delegated Act, the cybersecurity is not going to be mandatory, but the CRA will be. And what is the Cyber Resilience Act? So nowadays, there is not much information about it. Of course, we have some fact sheets and a lot of information, but nothing tangible that we can read and we can understand correctly, so to say. And it aims to safeguard consumer and businesses buying or using products or software with a digital component. So this is important, a digital component. So it's going to be a wider scope. So almost everything nowadays has a digital component. So they will introduce mandatory cybersecurity requirements for manufacturers and retailers of such products. And this protection will be extended through the product lifecycle. The CRA says that it will guarantee harmonized rules when bringing to market product or software with a digital component, a framework of cybersecurity requirements governing the planning, design, development, and maintenance of such products with obligations to be met at every stage of the value chain, and an obligation to provide the duty of care for the entire life cycle of such products. So it was released on early 2024, so this year, and it is stated that manufacturers will have to apply the rules 36 months after they entry into force. This is on 2027, 3 years from now. Will it be delayed? I think it will. And finally, the Commission will periodically review the Cyber Resilience Act and report on its functioning. So they want to keep it updated. And then one of the non-mandatory regulations, if we can call it regulation, is the Singapore Cybersecurity Labeling Scheme. This labeling scheme is a part of Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, of course, to show efforts to better secure Singapore's cyberspace and to raise cyber hygiene levels. This program assesses and rates consumer Internet of Things devices based on their cybersecurity features. By understanding the CLS rating system, customers can be empowered to make informed decisions when purchasing smart devices, ensuring they better protect their privacy and data. As can be seen in the image of the right side, you can see first the label on top, and then on the bottom, you can see every tier available. So every star, so to say, up to 4 stars or 4 levels. So every tier covers different cybersecurity requirements that the device must pass in order to be labeled accordingly. So you go from baseline requirements to then assess the life cycle, to then assess the software vulnerability analysis, and then on top of that, penetration testing. The US labeling scheme, also non-mandatory, such as the Singapore one, and it is also called the Cyber Trust Mark, which is a cybersecurity certification labeling program that is focused on IoT consumer devices as well. And after showing compliance with the criteria defined, the products would be marked with this logo. The Trust Mark also has potential to help consumers choose their devices with an external mark. So these kind of marks are not done by the manufacturer itself, but they have some requirements that you need to go to a third-party laboratory to perform the testing so you can issue the labeling. Has the potential to help consumers, as I said, to choose their devices with an external mark. It is anticipated that the Federal Communication Commission will launch the label this year based on the NIST IR 8425 standard requirements, which I'm going to be talking about it later. And as one of the last regulations, UK PSTI, which is, of course, for the United Kingdom. This is the United Kingdom product security telecommunications infrastructure, and it was issued on 2022 with an enforcing date of April 2024, meaning that it is not right now under enforcement. The products that are covered by these regulations are those that can connect to a network. The main difference with the Delegated Act is that the UK PSTI also applies to any device that connects to internet, whether it has a radio element or not. Some of the requirements include to not use universal default passwords, mandatory reporting of security issues, and that manufacturers shall inform customers about the product security update support period before purchasing. This regulation applies to any IoT device connected to the internet focused on consumer products. You can see in the third column, it says smart home assistants, smartphones, connected cameras, and so on. What are the products that are not covered by these regulations? So products made available for a supply in Northern Ireland to which relevant legislation applies. Charge points for electric vehicles, because in the UK you have a specific regulation for charge points. Medical devices are also not covered. Smart meter products, desktop computers, laptop computers, and any computer of this kind is also not covered. How to comply with this one? So all of the connected devices, whether they support radio connectivity or not, so they are going to be covered by this regulation. And in order to comply with this regulation, this UK PSTI refers to HCN 303645 standard, which is a standard that it's already published as on the trustmark of US, that it refers to a standard that it's already published and it's public. So meaning that the HCN 303645 fully covers the UK PSTI. On the standard side, we have HCN 303645, which is it's a standard, of course, and it is meant, sorry, it is meant for consumer IoT products. It is aligned with the General Data Protection Regulation, with the GDPR, and its pre-assessment or testing is based on another public document, which is the TS 103-701, which provides guidance on how to assess and ensure that the IoT products are well defined against the provisions. And the IoT products included in the scope are connected children toys, baby monitors, safety relevant products, smoke detector, door locks, TVs, speakers, smart fridges, smart washing machines, any type of consumer device that you can imagine. There is a bit of difference here that I need to make sure that you get the idea, because the NIST IR standard and the HCN 303645 have a different scope. So on the HCN 303645, the scope is only the main device, but not the associate services that this device can have. So for example, if you have a mobile application or a cloud service, so those are not going to be applicable to this standard. And of course, then not to the UK PSTI. So meaning that only the device and its direct connections are going to be tested. And as you can see in this image, the 303645 standard covers a wide range of areas, so to say. So you have ensure that personal data is secure, ensure software integrity, no default passwords are being used, keep software update, validate input data. So all of them are different areas, which each area has several requirements for testing the product. The document set of this regulation is mainly the 303645, which includes the baseline requirements, the outcome focused provisions, and so on. And then you have the 103-701, which is the conformance assessment against the 303645, which is the guideline for the tester, so to say. The 103-621, which is a guideline for manufacturers to show not to show comply, but it's like a guide to make sure that your device complies with the 303645. And then, of course, you have a vertical standard and domain-specific extension, such as the smart locks and more restrictive, testable, and stringent specifications. Why talking about this standard in particular? So, because it is used as a baseline for a lot of standards and a lot of regulations. So, for example, the level 1 of the Singapore cybersecurity labeling scheme is built on the 303645. There is also a non-mandatory labeling scheme on Finland's, the Finland National Consumer IoT Certification Scheme. It's also using the 303645 as a baseline, and the PCI certified, which is backed by IRM, it also mapped with the 303645. So NIST IR 8425.
Jose, how many
Yes,
slides do we have remaining? And there's a lot of numbers that you're reeling off.
I know, it's a mess. I know, but yeah, in the end, it will make sense. I have 8 more slides.
We're time bound, so if you could please go through them with
I will
speed.
go super fast then.
Thank you.
All right, so this standard also focused on IoT devices, but the main difference with the HCM 33645 is that not only the IoT device, as you can see in the box, is included, but also the cloud services, databases, analytics, or mobile application used by the device. So the whole scope is going to be on this testing area to comply or to get the cyber trust mark on the US. And then we have the 62443, which is meant to address industrial cybersecurity, but nowadays is also used as a baseline for other devices and also for critical infrastructure. For instance, the -4-2 was taken into account for the development of the Delegated Act harmonized standard, as well as the 303645. So each row in the middle number references are part of the industrial cybersecurity. So, for example, the first row is for general information, the second one for policies and procedures, the third row is for a system,
Layered, tiered, etc. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and component. So the 62443 consists of a total of 14 standards and guidelines. And the more interesting ones from a product testing point of view are the -3-3, which is, 62443-3-3, requirements for systems, -4-1, requirements for security development, the life cycle, and -4-2, requirements for industrial components.
Thank you.
So on this image, we can see how an overview of the parties that take part on this standard. So on the bottom, we see that the product supply develops 62443-4-1 for the security development lifecycle, defining roles, processes to manufacture such components. These components need to comply with hands-on testing or functional testing, however you want to call it, based on the 62443-4-2 standard. So you have the processes defined on a -4-1, and then you test the component you created using these processes using the -4-2.
And then Jose,
yes.
Commercially, I mean, I apologize for, but there's a lot of numbers here, and we can look these up. But commercially, what I think a lot of the audience here want to know is, with IoT devices, how can security risks be mitigated to protect either a brand, or how when you're creating a particular product, what are the risks involved in looking at? These are policies and procedures, but what are the actual inherent risks? Give us some, rather than giving us some numbers, give us some real life examples, as for instance, working with Dekra and leading cybersecurity across many different ecosystems, which is why you obviously have to have these particular policies. It's very, very clear. But in your engagement and in the development of this particular standards of which you're elaborating to us today, with regard maybe to electric vehicles, considering that's one of your interests, what are the main security risks associated with electric vehicles, as an example? Can you give us something live, something real for the audience, rather than something that we can find out online, copy paste and give to our directive officers?
Of course. So on electric vehicles, more than electric vehicles, on the charging stations of those electric vehicles, the most findings that we found that could compromise the devices was that, for example, the authorizations were not encrypted. There is a little awareness on cybersecurity on this specific vertical. So we found a lot of EV charging stations where you could just open it with a regular key or a screw, and you had all of the physical port inside where you just connect and you are in the
Vulnerability 101.
Exactly. So those were one of the things that got us amazed, like the little awareness of that. And I think it's because it's a business that it's ramping up nowadays, and they want to create products and put them into the market so they can have a name on this specific technology. But they are not taking account the risks on putting the devices that fast on the market, so to say.
And it's not just about having firewall protection or protection in the cloud. It's about physical protection, or even just looking at the device itself.
Exactly. Physical protection is one of the main vulnerabilities they have. And also, there are a lot of them are using their own cards in order to log in to the charging stations to charge their electric vehicles, and they are not taking account security measure for that. So anyone with it's called a scriptless kiddo, right? So someone with just a little of interest on cybersecurity could log in on these or authorize themselves to these charging stations and start charging their cars for free, for example.
It's not easy. I mean, Huawei is developing a product over in Asia, which is, I'm sure, going to be coming across to the rest of the world like it usually does with everything like smart cars, but also the smart shopping with the Internet of Things, obviously, with people having their identity and they can then go shopping without actually having to go to a cash out at the very, very end. Everything can be recorded upon the basket of which they carry. But it seems to us that IoT security measures need a little bit more thinking about. It's great to have these policies, but encryption, authentication, regular updates, and physical as well as firewall cybersecurity protection seems to be very, very much required.
Exactly. And I think that cybersecurity nowadays has a lot of strength on IT systems. So you have a lot of material to cover an IT system. This is cloud and so on, but the product themselves, they are on the ground. They are on the floor. You can find them anywhere, and there is not awareness on protecting them as well.
Please go through your final slides. We're about 5 minutes over time at the moment, so please finish up, and then I have Angelo D'Amato to introduce. So please go ahead.
So I will go to the last slide. So just to say that on medical vertical, there are also regulations, the FDA in the US, the MDR in the UA, the European Union, sorry. TGA
Devices, mobiles, consoles, computers, laptops, in-car devices. Oh, goodness me.
Exactly. So there is a lot of verticals, and as a cybersecurity personnel, we need to be aware of all of them to
and any global organization needs to take into fact the regulations in different markets, of course, as well. Very much, very, very important. Globalization. Thank you very much, Jose.